Hello, you're on the Ruslan Belov channel. Today is July 28th, and we begin our overview of the Ukrainian front. Zelensky has declared that he gave the Russian side a deadline until the end of August to organize a meeting between Putin and himself, possibly with the participation of some European leaders. But what is he counting on? I'm more than confident that no one will agree to such a proposal. Before we begin, I would sincerely like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps support its growth. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. So friends, the Russian army has now been advancing for the fourth consecutive day, maintaining a good operational tempo. To put it in perspective, over the past 24 hours, more than 40 square kilometers came under Russian control, and over the last 4 days, more than 140 square kilometers. And what happened over the past day is frankly astonishing. Let's get into the details. We begin with the Siversk section, which until recently was considered completely inactive. Just take a look at what's happening. It's simply incredible. In fact, what you're seeing on the map right now is an impressive achievement even by the standards of southern Donetsk, where the AFU, Ukrainian Armed Forces, experience daily setbacks. But for the Siversk sector, the breakthrough was about 4 kilometers deep, and the total area taken under control exceeds 18 square kilometers. That's just wow. For comparison, under the previous command, which was replaced in the fall of last year, only 6 km towns were captured in this direction throughout all of 2024. Let me repeat that. 6 square kilometers in a year. And now, in one day, 3 times that amount. How was this possible? 2 large armored columns launched attacks in 2 directions. One moved toward the southern approaches to Serebryanka, aiming at the road between Serebryanka and Siversk. The other moved toward Siversk itself. Footage of these column attacks has already appeared online. Just to clarify, the video is not from the Russian side. It's from the Ukrainian side. There are many frames showing destroyed and burning vehicles. Still, this is objective confirmation of the Russian breakthrough. The footage is striking in terms of the scale of the assault and the extent of the advance. Now I know what some people are going to say, but how many people died for this breakthrough? Or how much equipment was lost? To those people I ask, how many were killed on the Siversk front throughout last year? Way more, right? And what was achieved? 6 km towns. And now? The front moved forward by 4.5 km, with 18 kilometers taken. For reference, the current Russian positions are now just 1.5 kilometers from the outskirts of Siversk. What's more, the road between Serebryanka and Siversk has now been taken under physical, not just drone control. That alone is a major result. Or do you think it's possible to advance 5 kilometers without any losses? Sorry, that's just not possible, especially in modern warfare where the sky is constantly filled with drones. So in my view, this is a brilliant and unexpected success. Honestly, I never thought I'd witness such a deep breakthrough in what used to be a stagnant part of the front, with the AFU losing nearly 20 square kilometers. But don't forget, even Ukrainian breakthroughs also come at a cost. That's simply the reality of modern war. And that wasn't the only collapse for the AFU. There was another section where the Russians also broke through by 4 kilometers, crushing part of the Ukrainian line. But before we move on, a few more words about Siversk. As for the prospects of storming Siversk itself, I'll say this. For now, it's not on the table. Don't expect an assault on the city in the coming days. Yes, Russian positions are now just 1.5 kilometers from Siversk, but that doesn't mean a direct storming will happen anytime soon. First, they will deal with Serebryanka and secure access to Dronivka to approach Siversk from the north. They'll also strengthen positions from the direction of Kamyanske, as well as from the south via Vyemka. Of course, now that Russian forces are so close, reconnaissance and sabotage units will likely start penetrating Siversk and causing disruptions, preventing the AFU garrison from resting or regrouping. We're likely to see a situation similar to what's unfolding now in Pokrovsk. Still, it's unlikely we'll see full-scale storming of Siversk in the coming months. Now let's talk about the Konstantinovka direction. There's progress here too. Russian units continue to attack near Rusin Yar and Poltavka. Poltavka is now fully under Russian control. They're attempting to push further north, most of Rusin Yar is also under Russian control. Some pro-Russian sources reported that Oleksandr Kalinove has been taken, but according to Yuri Podolyaka, the entire settlement is not yet secured. The eastern part remains under Ukrainian control. A major setback for Kiev came after Russia captured Bilahora, which disrupted AFU logistics. Russian forces are now fighting for control over Oleksandr Shultin. Moving on. The second area where significant progress was made over the past day is on the eastern flank of Mirnohrad. Russian forces advanced nearly 4 kilometers toward the village of Shakov. As a result, new positions were captured near the quarry, and advances were made along the road leading to Shakov. The total area taken, 15.5 km², a more than impressive outcome for a single section. All of this is part of the broader operation to collapse the eastern and northern flanks of the Pokrovsk agglomeration. The current objective is to take this chain of villages: Novotoretske, Boykivka, Mayak, Vladimirovka, and Shakov. 5 villages in total, with Shakov being the key. Why Shakov? Because the road from Shakov leads to Novyi Shakov, and from there to the village of Novyi Donbass, through which runs the main supply artery for Pokrovsk, Mirnohrad, and Rodinske, from the north. In short, if this entire cascade of villages is taken, the entire northern line of defense collapses, and with it, the defense of the whole agglomeration. Therefore, our command is now gathering new forces from different sectors to intensify pressure. And, as you can see, it's yielding results. The front is advancing here. Let's continue. Another advance in the area of responsibility of the East Group. This time, no villages were taken, but territory south and north of the Volchaya. River was cleared, in both Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts. The front was also pushed slightly west of Dakhne. The total area gained here is just over 7 km². There are 2 main objectives: progress toward Filia, north of Novopavlivka, and straightening the front line along this corridor, eliminating this large pocket, about 60 km² in area. Elsewhere, under the East Group's responsibility, it remains quiet. Fighting continues in Voskresenivka, and movement has begun from Zeleny High toward Andriivka Klevtsovo. Next, Zaporizhia region, near the village of Kamyanske. Important developments are unfolding. Remember I told you about 6 of our fighters reaching the 3rd micro-district, a block of high-rise buildings near Stepnohursk. Well, video has emerged clearly showing our fighters moving through that micro-district, block by block. American cartographers have drawn a zone of full control here. The advance from the northern outskirts of Kamyanske to the 3rd micro-district is about 3.5 kilometers. However, the situation is more complex than the map suggests. Those 6 soldiers who reached the micro-district died in the end. So I'd challenge the American cartographers' full control marking. It's more of a grey zone than true control, though maybe the main forces will follow soon. In Pokrovsk, the Ukrainian side reports that there are now 10 Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups operating in different city areas, interacting with locals. Essentially, the AFU has no cohesive defense left in Pokrovsk. They are pulling back from southern districts toward the center to attempt some makeshift defensive line. All this suggests that in the near future we can expect good news from the Pokrovsk area, no more grey zones, but solid red zones marking full Russian control. Summary of the front. Yesterday the AFU made no advances, 0. Meanwhile, the Russian army captured 44.2 km², a very impressive result. Now a shift to the political overview. Domestic politics in Ukraine are now in motion. The situation around Zelensky is unstable for the first time, and the EU reportedly is reducing Ukraine's funding. Our source says Zelensky has fallen into a trap set by Western players. He now faces a harsh choice: side with Trump or side with globalists, as his Western ratings have plummeted. If he reverses the NABU, National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine case, he's returning to globalist control and will become even more tightly managed. For now, he seems to be pretending he'll reverse it, but anything can happen. According to the Telegram channel Legitimny, the crisis trajectory in Ukraine will now lean toward escalation and tougher mobilization. Our sources report that the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, is compiling lists of everyone who participated in protests and actively supported those movements in social media. Law enforcement will start targeting the most active actors, while men will be handled by the territorial recruitment centers. The question of forced mobilization could become the catalyst for real protests, something strongly feared by the authorities in Kyiv. They are delaying lowering the mobilization age. Zelensky was alarmed by Ukrainian protests over the bill reorganizing NABU and SAP, which now means an even greater purge of the information space. Zelensky's office has adopted a strategy of dragging out the peace track to rope Trump into a protracted war in Ukraine and secure weapons funding. The U.S. Secretary of State's statement that Trump is losing patience with Putin allows Kyiv to hope for a shift in U.S. policy after the 50-day ultimatum expires. Despite good contact with Putin and telephone calls, nothing fruitful has ever come from it. So it's time to act, the secretary said. According to Senator Rubio, Trump believes that Putin only engaged him in talks to stall. Much of that engagement was designed to buy time, and Trump refuses to fall into that trap, Rubio says. On the global diplomatic front and BRICS is strengthening. Brazil will double its commitments to the bloc in response to Trump's so-called punitive tariffs, noted Brazilian president's chief foreign policy advisor, Celso Amorim. He made the statement amid threats by Donald Trump to impose tariffs. Amorim emphasized, U.S. attacks on Brazil only strengthen our ties with BRICS, because we want diversified relations and not dependence on any one country. In addition to BRICS nations, Brazil intends to advance relations with countries across Europe, South America, and Asia. Recall, Trump threatened Brazil with tariffs twice this month. At the BRICS summit, he threatened a 10% tariff against countries joining the anti-American bloc. Later, he vowed a 50% tariff on Brazil, demanding the end of legal prosecution against ex-President Jair Bolsonaro. Amorim called the intervention unprecedented, and even during colonial times, the U.S. never interfered in Brazil so bluntly. Medvedev's take on Trump's EU deal. RT Security Council Deputy Chair Dmitry Medvedev stated, Trump has flattened Europe. Despite his extreme contradictions in speech and actions, he is consistent in one thing, aggressively advancing his country's economic interests. He noted the anti-Russian nature of the US-EU deal, namely the ban on buying Russian oil and gas. For the US, Medvedev claims, this is business, but for Europe it's ideological extremism injuring its citizens' welfare, he wrote on Telegram. He added with biting irony, one can only feel pity for ordinary Europeans. Now might be the time to storm Brussels and hoist all EU commissioners, including that wild grandmom Ursula, on the flagpoles. It won't help, but at least it would be fun. Thank you, friends, for staying with us until the end. If you find our analysis valuable, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next episode. Even more important updates are coming. Take care and stay safe.